I fairly sizzle with zeal and spring forth with a mighty faith to do that which ought to be done and must be done by me. So Jane is with us again today for music. Yay.
Hi, Unity.
Good morning.
Everybody out there in TV land, Unity. Love it. It's always fun to know that people are, we're not just here, but there's people all over tuning in to get some uplifting enrichment. And this song called One World, One Heart, one day I was in massage school, and I was feeling all alone. And I said, I feel so alone. And this one woman came up to me, she says, Jane, remember, we're all one. Mm-hmm. We said all alone, we're all one. Mm-hmm. And I thought, that really changed my thinking. Yeah.
Like it.
That's right. So this song is called One World, One Heart. Enjoy it and sing it with me, because it's really easy to sing. It's a fun song. So you have the words, so you can sing. I'll play the intro, and I think you'll just catch on. It's pretty much the same thing over and over.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Shall we just greet each other and...
So, this is a song called See Through Children's Eyes. And how many times, do we think about this? Children are so beautiful. The way they see things, it's just so simple, isn't it? And fresh and loving. They're so beautiful. So a friend of mine, Joshua Cotter, and Mary Beth Rose, both of them wrote this song. And it's also very easy this has more verses. So I think you'll get the hang of it. And it's real pretty. It's just kind of flows, right? Okay. Life is pure, the world is new, the sun begins to rise, hope is here and we sing. Joy will fill your life. We will give our best so can see through children's eyes. So the truth shall make us free, like love when we can fly. On the wings of God's true love, higher than the sky. That was awesome. How did it go?
It was fun when I got the words last night. I really enjoyed this song. There was really good lyrics. I just never can. Okey doke. So, our Christ candle is lit to remind us of the light. The light is in us. We are the Christ. We have our prayer box here, and all prayers that go in here also go to Silent Unity. And let's see. And the daily word today, it kind of goes with that song. The joyfully we give, and it's service, and we remember that we experience that joy as we give of ourselves in service to others. And we say together, I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. In Unity, we do affirmative prayer, and these are the 5 steps. And what we do is well, just like at any prayer time, we let go, we relax. And then the concentration is we concentrate on the truth of what we are. We affirm truth principles, truth statements. And we take this to silence. And that's the meditation. But in realization is kind of a tricky one. You come out of that silence with just a knowing of these truth principles. And of course, and then we have gratitude. So this morning, let's go into just a relaxed space. Take a deep breath. Feel that letting go, that release. Let's remember that each person in our community, everywhere, are fundamentally divine with unlimited potential. There are appearances, of course, there are things that happen, but when we come back to the center of who we are, we know that there is life, love, wisdom, peace. As we come together in this community, we think of all that we can do for each other, including just showing up. And we use those principles of generosity and benevolence to give of ourselves with our skills in service. We feel the great joy as we give ourselves, whether it's just being here or working on songs and making the sound work and recording. Every little thing everyone does is important. It's something we give. And as we give and come together, we have this growing awareness of our oneness in our divinity with those that we serve here and everywhere in all of humankind. And we take these words of truth, this divinity, to the silence for just a moment. We are grateful. We are grateful for this welcoming space, this sacred space that holds us as we come together. We are grateful to bring truth into our lives. We are grateful to realize our divine nature and practice. We are grateful for this day, for this service. And so it is. Thank you. Thank you. So, last Sunday, I talked a lot about heart-centered metaphysics. Today, I want to focus on the language of metaphysics. And I think I've got some interesting things. But first, a bit of a recap. We were just in that moment of prayer, but remember the heart-centered metaphysician. It's in unity. We bring it into our inner experience, our inner world. And we remember things come from the heart. We connect from the heart. So just take that minute. Our heart, our consciousness, our life. And really, a lot of what I said could be summed up this way. So that's a pretty short little succinct thing. What do you think those statements are? It's something you should be familiar with. How about the affirmations? How about the 5 principles? That's it. I love it. It's so short. God is, I am, I create it, I pray, I live it. That's it. And so we talk about, God is being, God is divine mind. Emily Cady said, God is not a being or person having life, intelligence, love, and power. It is that invisible, intangible, but very real something that we call life. God is life. God is perfect love and infinite power. God is the total of all these things, the total of all good, whether manifested or unexpressed. Now, good. We believe in good without an opposite. The term good refers to the totality of divine ideas that comprise the fundamental divine nature. It does not mean that everything we experience, though, is good. That's true. That in the relative world, things happen, right? I could say another blank happens, but that's in the relative world. But it just simply means that the good underlies everything as divine ideas and is ever available, regardless of appearances. So there's good. And then we are one with this God. We are one with this God. And then we create it. We create our own experiences. I'm not saying that we like magic, we create like that, but we do create our own experiences. And in fact, we can bring any divine idea into expression. And we pray. We pray affirmatively, just as we did a moment ago, and we live it. You see, I have the idea and I live it. I make it happen. It's an action step. Now, any of you that know James, remember James, he said oompa. That's the way he remembers the 5 principles. I had to go look this up because I couldn't remember all of them. I wrote Sandy and said, now what are the 2 O's? But here you go. And it's just simply what I said a moment ago. Oneness. We are born with original virtue, not an original sin. And we make mindful creation and prayer and action. So that's another way to remember, to succinctly remember that. And our whole goal, the goal of all the goals, is just to wake up to the oneness and express our Christ potential. And I talked a lot about divine will and divine plans and so forth last week, but the divine will is just really a generic thing, and we have the choice and freedom and dominion over our divine plan. But we listen to divine guidance and we honor divine will. And of course, we talked about the silence. I hope you experienced some nice silence this week, because that's where a lot of good things happen. But this Sunday, we're going to look at what we say in our language. And I asked some of you to choose some sayings, and we're going to look at some expressions. And we're going to see if we can't reframe some of these expressions. And I ask only that you be open and willing and curious about this. It may not, you may think, no, I like my old expression. I'm going to keep it. That's fine. I'm not making you change anything. But we all want to mean what we say and say what we mean. So you might just open a little bit to some of this. It's merely an invitation to claim something new. So here's one that I was just wanted to give this as a good example. Have you ever said this? It's all in divine order. I think that I do. But in unity, divine order has a very specific meaning. It's about mind, idea, expression. In fact, that's our Trinity: mind, idea, expression. And so another way to think about that maybe is I am divinely ordering. So here's an event. Here's something that's come up in my life. So I am divinely ordering. It's not God out there that's making things happen, that's put things in a specific order. It sometimes kind of feels that way. Maybe you're making a meaning of it, but really I am divinely ordering. Now, another one that I wanted to make sure we got in today was fake it till you make it. Have you ever said that? So, fake it. That's kind of inauthentic a little bit. But it is, have you been there? I've been there where I didn't really feel like doing it, but maybe if I just show up and we'll see. So the problem is this assumes that pretense is a virtue. But here's the good news. You really do know what you want. See, there's a little truth in all of these things. So the deal is maybe you've got some idea, something that you want to accomplish till you make it. And what about this? What about faith it till you make it? Because this has come up for me a lot this week. Here's something that's happened. I really wish that I could impact it and it could be different, but I'm not certain that I can do this. I'm not certain. But what if I have faith and believe, and if I stay in that place of faith, then I might really master this situation. All right? I might just be able to make it. And then the power of strength, which is perseverance, really that kind of lays over all of this. You know, if we just keep doing it, because it's like faith it till you make it. So there's that one. Now, let me see. I had some of you all choose some others. I did 11. I could have done this all day long, but no, we're not going to do that. Don't worry about it. But anyway, let's see. That one wasn't chosen, but that's interesting. This is kind of an interesting one. It's synchronicity. I know that Sandy Groves and I, when we're reading the Daily Word, we're going, they wrote that Daily Word just for me. I know it. It had to have happened. It was a coincidence. But that's a really interesting one because you wouldn't believe this. You know what? Synchronicity is something that Carl Jung, he coined the phrase for that. And he coined it to describe what he called temporally coincident occurrences. And he believed maybe the whole universe is like synchronicity is just really prevalent and it works in our universe. But then there's this thing I found called the Skeptics Dictionary. And it noted, what reasons are there for accepting synchronicity as an explanation for anything in the real world? What it explains is more simply and elegantly explained by the ability of the human mind to find meaning and significance where there is none. You might notice many coincidences in your life, but you are the one giving it meaning. Have you ever thought of that? And that is really the truth. If I think about it, Travis, we were talking about courage was one of the daily words this week, and it fit, but it was really, here it was, it came up for you, and you made the meaning in it. If you really think about it, last week, spiritual being was a daily word, and it just seemed to fall perfectly in what I was talking about, but I was the one that made the connection. You see, it comes down to us. So here's an alternative. I synchronize. Its synchronicity may sound a little better, but I synchronize. So let's see. I think, no, that wasn't one that was chosen today. I'm in the flow, or I'm not in the flow. Have you ever said that? Oh, I'm just in the flow. I feel like I'm in the flow. Okay. That's a wonderful saying, and there's really a little bit of truth in it. But a lot of times we say it when, like we say the first one, when life's going real smooth and it just seems like a miracle. And then, oh, I'm just not in the flow. Well, that's when things are just kind of rocking along and it doesn't feel that good, right? So there is a seeming flow in life, and we're really never, ever, ever separated from it. We've just got to remember, here's the deal, I am the flow. That's what we need to remember. As Eric Butterworth says, you can never not be in the flow. It's going on, and you are in it. It is in you. It is the reality of you. It is not something to reach for, but a truth that you just accept. So, wow, that's something interesting to consider. Someone chose this one. I know we've said this. I've said it. What we resist persists. So what about that one? Forgive me here. So the underlying assumption may be not to resist anything we want out of our lives, but the idea is it can be taken much too literally, especially with outer events. So it's been said that this type of reasoning can be disempowering and keeping us from being proactive. The saying is true at the conscious level, at conscious awareness. It is based on the law of mind actions, because what we know is thoughts and feelings held in consciousness create in consciousness. So what the feeling of this resistance and this persisting can be going on in our consciousness, in our minds, and the thoughts and feelings we resist do persist even longer than if we just simply let them go. And in a way, we practice this in meditation. When thoughts come up, you just let them come up and you let them go. But what happens when you glom onto something? Then it persists. So just simply remember that what we resist in mind stays in mind. Okay, let's see if someone shows this one. Nope. It was a blessing. Now, I know this comes up frequently in Paul Hasselbeck's classes, but for example, people think of like cancer is a blessing, is really a blessing, or they think some illness, or that divorce was really a blessing for me. And the thing of it is, an event can't really bless us. That's not what's going on. It's sort of like the synchronicity. We make the meaning of it. We determine what the lesson is. It's not given to us for a lesson. That's not what's happening. Now, I don't know. At this point, I don't know if I've made y'all mad or what. Does anyone have anything they want to contradict here? And it may not be this one. I don't know. Another one, and I didn't put it up in here in the hearts, is let go, let God. That's another good saying, and it sounds so clever. Let go, let God. But again, yes, let go, but it's not God out there that's doing it. Now, this has come up when I've talked about these expressions a lot with people, or when, it's come up in discussion. If our consciousness is in the right place and we get it, that there's no God out there, then it's okay. It's sort of okay to say the sayings. It's not the unity police going to come get you if you say the sayings. But you just got to remember where you're coming from. Huh? Yeah, see, that's it. We have that freedom, don't we? So anyway, this one, it just wasn't meant to be. A lot of people will use that when, they wanted something and it just didn't happen. And it's sort of a way of just throwing it off, or rationalizing. But another way to look at that is, I'll get it if I mean it. If I really want this, I can make this happen. Now, there are certain things outside of us that we may not have control over. Honestly, this gets said a lot. My daughter had a miscarriage this spring, and and then there's some things that happen in life, a tragedy kind of, and people not knowing how to empathize, try to use this phrase as a bit of sympathy, but that doesn't work. But I will say they are now doing everything they can, with doctors and so forth, to try to make a baby happen for them. And so in a way, she does mean it. And in consciousness and everything, she's working for this to happen, but it still may not. But she's not just saying, well, it wasn't meant to be, I guess I'll just give up. So this is what I was called to do. We say this as though we've got to be careful with this one. It's not like there's a plan out there that we're supposed to figure out that was already made for us. But what happens is, in fact, Jane said something this morning, I want a joyful job. because we want to do that thing that aligns us with our Christ potential. That's really our job, is to express our Christ potential. And yes, there are things we can do that make that expression more possible. And so really, this is what I'm calling myself to do, is what's happening. And if I capitalize that I am, you see, in meditation with that divine guidance, this is what I am calling myself to do. This was one that someone chose this morning. The universe rushes in to fill the void. People use the universe to be synonymous with God. That's kind of a trend these days. And the universe is just simply the universe. And we do say nature abhors a vacuum. We've said that. But is there a power that will fill a void with anything? Is there a power that will fill that void with anything? How can there ever be a void if divine mind, oneness, is everywhere present all the time? Can there really be a void? It is true when we eliminate a belief or a thought pattern that we need to focus on some new thought or belief that we do want. We need to focus on what we want, but from the infinite potential, literally anything can be formed. And if you look at quantum physics, even if you put in half of a photon in a quantum field, a whole and complete photon emerges. So this could mean that what we put into a quantum field of consciousness can be completed or brought into wholeness. We can never be separated from the field, but we both act upon it and we are that field at the same time. So another way that we could say is, I fill the potential. Now I'm hoping you're noticing a theme here. It's tag, you're it. There is so much that's up to us. And it does go back to those 5 principles. I create it, I pray, and I live it. It's really there. I behold the Christ in you. Now this one's kind of a hard one because we say this a lot. I behold the Christ in you. But the deal is, we are the Christ. And we can say, I behold the Christ. It implies that Christ is within the body. And as Paul likes to say, it's the wiener in the bun theology. But what he means by that is the Christ, to say it the other way, let me go back. To say it the other way, you got to think about your consciousness. Are you thinking that still you and Christ are separate? You see, the wiener and the bun. The wiener is not the bun and the bun is not the wiener, But no, in oneness, we are the same thing. So, if anything, Christ is in consciousness. Our consciousness is Christ consciousness. There is an indivisible dynamic at work. We do have control over our own thoughts, and our thoughts make up our consciousness. And I further believe that we can embody the Christ consciousness. We work on it's, not making things separate, but literally embodying that consciousness and being aware of it. So, and I think Paul even adds one more line, I behold the Christ you are. So, okay. So again, this is just an invitation to think about things and maybe how we say them. And we're really unitizing things all the time. I know we unitize lyrics and songs and expressions and readings, and we filter through our own consciousness. So let's also look at, well, how do we read, when we read things, how do we unitize it? Because really a lot of things that come out of traditional religion, they're not bad in and of themselves. It's just the way they've kind of been interpreted and perceived. And so I'm all the time in my mind, rereading things, and as I say, unitizing it. Now, many unitics are overcoming a traditional fundamental Christian experience. And really, they don't want to have anything to do with the Bible or the hymns or the rituals. And even in our little Hot Springs church, the Center for Oneness, is that right? Is that what it's called now? Center for Spiritual Oneness. So the people they're kind of at odds now. No, we don't want those. They're pushing away from that, and that's okay to do that. But what if we can embrace everything? I prefer to live that way. So, but if you can make metaphysical interpretations, it could possibly transform all those triggers. Now, you all know that we do a metaphysical interpretation of the Christmas story. And it's really beautiful how we look at the symbols of Joseph and Mary and so forth. So there's that. But in my study for the licensed Unity teacher, we do metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. So I'm going to do just a little bit of that. And again, I just simply invite you to be open and willing and curious. And I'm going to start with the New Testament real briefly. I just mentioned the Christmas story. But, there's the story about Jesus overturning the tables of the money changers. Now, I thought that was a cool story because Jesus got mad. He wasn't always perfect. He still had that human component. He was mad that they were, selling things in the table and doing all that, just selling things and so forth. So he overturned those tables. But now, metaphysically, how does that speak to me? So if you literally look at the passages about this, of course, his disciples were with him. But if I turn that in as a story about me, what I can see is my Christ consciousness using the truth of the 12 powers continuously regenerates my mind, body, spirit, and my Christ consciousness, and overturns my embedded theology and beliefs and, thoughts that are in lower consciousness, so that I live in an abiding consciousness of spiritual peace. So there's that one. Now I'm going to go to there it is. I did write that out. And I apologize I know that that's harder to read, so I've tried to minimize some of that. Sweet. But now, let's look at the Old Testament. Now, some of you say, well, I don't like the Old Testament. The God was so angry in the Old Testament. But I tell you what, the Old Testament has the best stories. It really does. There is murder and jealousy and all kinds of things going on in the Old Testament. So, there's a short story in Genesis. Jacob is the son of Isaac, son of Abraham, all that lineage. And what happened is Jacob had a brother Esau, and Esau was very jealous of Jacob. And Isaac told him, he said, you need to get out of here. You need to get away from your brother, let him cool off. You need to go someplace. So Jacob went on a journey, and at night he was resting, and he made I couldn't do this, but he made a pile of stones for a pillow. And he laid down to rest, and he had a dream. And in the dream, he sees this ladder going to heaven. And it's kind of interesting. He sees angels not only ascending, but descending. So the angels were very busy going up and down the ladder. And the Lord spoke to him and said, you will be blessed, Jacob, and that blessing is going to extend to all your family and all the land, and you are going to be the source of that blessing. So I had a metaphysical interpretation of that. So at the place where I realized my divine identity, where he's stopping in Beersheba to rest and lay down on this pillow of stones, I rest on faith as I illuminate my consciousness, I use the 12 powers to step toward my higher self and realize that I am never separated from divine mind, where all possibilities reside to be expressed. I use divine order to experience prosperity, the blessing, and return my gifts in circulation. Okay, and another favorite story of mine is, when the walls came tumbling down from Jericho. And what happened here, what we've heard is that they blew the trumpets. But that's not the only way they made those walls crumble. For an entire week, this Jericho seemed impenetrable, that this wall could never, ever fail. And so the Israelites crossed the River Jordan, and every day for a week, they surrounded the city exactly 7 times, and the priests were leading the procession, and they were carrying the ark. But the soldiers had their spears, and they just clonked. I can't remember how many there were, lots, millions, not millions, thousands. So anyway, they would beat their spears on the ground and clomp around the city. They did that for 7 days, 7 times each day. Well, guess what? All that marching, that weakened the walls, and the walls started crumbling. So it didn't happen just overnight. But then on that last day, the crazy thing is that they did the marching, but they also blew the trumpet. And of course, that was what really brought the walls down. Now, historically, that didn't really happen. But there was a place called Jericho. But I just love that story about the wall. Also, I remember that Olivia Morgan Snyder and Amanda Blegg taught about the women of the Bible. And an interesting character in here was Rahab, the whore. And if it hadn't been for Rahab, the spies that came out to investigate things about the wall, the Israelites, these 2 men would have been killed, and they never would have been able to do this. So Rahab had this great faith and knew that the city rulers were over, that she wanted to follow the God of the Israelites. And so she's a really interesting character. So let me read with this. Now, Joshua is the one that led this big army that made this wall come down. And he represents courage to act with spiritual demonstration. And so here's what I got out of that. When I live in Christ consciousness, I may deal with a chattering mind, but keeping to positive thoughts and affirmations, I realize the truth. I sit in stillness to realize spiritual wholeness, and in this sacred place, I know my Christ nature. Now, Jericho was very worldly, so in this world, I may have illusions of safety, like that wall, and thinking I am in control with my own thinking and planning. I know that things can fail, but when I turn to faith in the power of spirit and apply the law of mind action, I realize my divine identity and deny the illusion. And this is about Rahab. With the fidelity and faithfulness of divine love, I am centered in affirmations and thought, word, and actions. My illusions appear solid, but my denials crumble my defensive words and actions as I am transformed. So that crumbling is the wall coming down. And the deal is, in our lives, we all have walls. We all build walls. And it is through our faith and our work and our prayer work that we can bring the walls down. So now, I'm not saying you need to go out and read the Bible and interpret all these things, but for me, it's like a puzzle trying to put all these things together. It is so interesting to take a story and use the Metaphysical Dictionary, and it's actually online, and try to put these things together, because all those stories really speak to me. They really still speak to me. And in fact, another thing that we had to do was to reinterpret the 23rd Psalm. And I know y'all are very familiar with that. And even just hearing it in the old language, it still means something. But we had to rewrite it in our own words. And this is really where it started to live in me in a different way. And I was in class with Linda, so Linda's going to join me too, but I'm going to read mine, and then Linda's going to read hers. But as we're reading this to you, just begin to go into kind of meditation. And when Linda finishes, we're going to stay in silence for a bit. But these words are so beautiful and applicable to us today. So here was mine, and I know you can't read all those fine words. So, okay. So, as you know, it starts off, "The Lord is my shepherd; I shall not want." We all kind of know that, but here's the way I wrote it. I am the source of all understanding and help for myself. I will not lack for anything. I deny the power of feelings of lack. I rest in knowing that I have an abundant supply of fresh and new ideas. I guide myself in times of peaceful meditation. I am strengthened in divine harmony. I guide myself in ways that take me to truth. Though I face my fears and shadow side and even death, I will not give in to fear and separate from my divine identity. I have strength and grace and can always turn back to my divinity. Love, wisdom, life are always set before me in a feast. There may be apparent obstacles and challenging situations, but I am blessed in love. My consciousness ever expands to Christ's consciousness. My being will exist in God eternally. And Linda?
My divine Christ within is my keeper. I am without need. I rest in my abundance without concern. My spirit, soul is regenerated when I follow Christ's example. Even though I experience emotional turmoil, I stand strong in my heart, which centers me. Achieve oneness, while in my limitations, I maintain love for all. Living well with best intentions allows me connection with my higher power throughout life.
Thank you. Let's just sit for a minute in silence. Remember, I am pure beingness, emanating divine life and wisdom. Spirit, thank you. Spirit lives in me as pure potential. My life is an outer expression of my divine nature.
I got something out of that. Allow, then change my perspective to God's perspective, and then see through God's eyes. This is a song that I wrote when my children were growing up, and I was, talking with God and seeing God through my children and through the future and things like all potential and things like that. So this is called Making a Family. It's a country song. Wrote a few country songs in my life. This one's it's a waltz.
Heaven is on
way.
Another service we offer is our offering. So let us say together, come down. Together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Okay, this is a song everybody knows from The Sound of Music. It's one of my favorites. And I think about it when, if I ever get into that pity place or that place where I want to feel sad, I say, wait, I can shift this. I can shift into happiness. All I have to do is think of my favorite things. So, I want you to think of your favorite things next time any of us gets into that slump or that sadness or, well, if you need to feel sad for a minute, okay, but after that, it's like, what do I think of my favorite things? So this is from Sound of Music, my favorite things, and you're welcome to sing in chorus. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel noodles. Wild geese that never have long their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dawn bites and the bees stings, when I feel inside, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I feel so high. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, silver fleece that fall on my nose and eyelashes, silver white curtains that just rings. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dawn lights and the bees stings, when I feel inside, I simply remember my favorite things.
So, for our announcements today, we have our Tuesday meetings. Sounds of Unity is this Friday. Efron White is going to play. And there is a board meeting on Saturday, following Saturday. So, another thing that's sort of happening is it just to put it out there for y'all to think about, I'm thinking the music team really may be starting to bubble up again. And we're thinking about organizing a night for everyone to meet to share with the music. So, and if you know of anyone that wants to join in a song, please let Jane or Bill know, and I think that's going to be fun. And another thing that's come up is Pam Duncan has contacted the van, right? And this is a good outreach project that we're going to start in earnest next week, and we need to go through the middle of November before Thanksgiving because, finally, y'all, the weather did turn. And is this an organization, Pam, that supports the homeless? Okay. So what they need are tents and tarps, blankets and bags, sleeping bags, that is. And Pam told me this morning that like a single tent costs $24. It's not that expensive. And so just like Jeannie used to do, you can go out yourself and get blankets, bags, whatever, and bring it here. Or you can donate money, and Pam and a team will go out and purchase some of these things that we can give to the van. And we've always we've been missing these outreach projects. And I was told that last year we collected socks. The year before we collected socks, and we did an amazing amount of socks to give to people, to this group.
And I don't think anybody ever really realized that we had over 500 pairs of socks.
Well, yeah, we gave over 500 pairs of socks at that time. So we are always, no matter what the project is, we definitely practice that kindness, benevolence, and generosity. So we'll be putting an insert in the bulletin, but just wanted to kind of announce it today, and more information will be coming. So that will be a good thing to do. Anyone else have any announcements that need to be? I think I've got it for this week. Sounds of Unity. Yes, Jane.
Oh, I was just going to say that if I may, we have decided on a day to meet for anybody who wants to contribute to music. It'll be on Wednesday evenings. What time do you think? Oh, I think it was 6:30 or something. 6:30.
Early evening, yeah.
But it's going to be on Wednesdays. This Saturday we're meeting because I can't be here this next Wednesday. But anyways, Wednesdays. So if you
Start thinking music on Wednesday.
Yeah, with music, we'll be practicing for the next Sunday and for future Sundays whenever we're going to play. You know, we have to get with Jeannie on that. But
Okay.
it'll be practice, so people who are really interested and want to come.
So I have a question about that. So if you just want to kind of do a one-time or an occasional shot, not that I would do.
Are you volunteering, Jerry? No.
Not my area of like if somebody says, I would like to do a song once every quarter or whatever, would that work for this too?
Yes, absolutely. And what we're going to try to do is, on a continuing basis, meet and work up songs for future performances and work with people when they feel available and when they want to sing, and have a team that's broad, but not everybody has to show up every time. That's really
Yeah, so
my-
we're already establishing a core team right now, like a couple of people, a few people. There's 2 people and then 1 person who's come to our first, we're working on a song right now, we're working on a second song. To establish eventually a little team that we can always have some music every Sunday. And then, but those who want to do this once in a while, it's absolutely, we prepare for that, you know. We'll say, okay, this Sunday you're going to do such and such.
Right, so y'all will be the support for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, to support. That's wonderful. Yay. Actually, that's an example of Prayer Works. I've been having this consciousness of our music coming together, and we know we miss Tam, but you know what? It's going to be okay. Vondra. Yes, Judy.
Yes, if you have any suggestions for a nice Christmas party, I'm working on that, and how to be able to have you get some aid more than possible. And where it's going to be.
Right, some of you have asked questions about that, and we didn't do it last year, and people are saying, oh, let's bring that back. So we're going to try to make that we're going to make that happen. So thank you, Judy, very much for saying that. Harvest Sunday. Oh, let's not forget. I think there was an insert in your bulletin, but it is 2 weeks from this Sunday, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Next Sunday, I don't know what this is going to be, but actually, Bill, you inspired the whole month of October to be about metaphysics, but his is Metaphysical Mephistopheles. Okay. Wow, okay. It is going to be fun. Well, you know, like enough said, but I know you've really got something in store for us. we're going to be looking at that old devil, but we want y'all to get a real feel for how it is in unity. But yeah, the music, there's going to be a lot of singing about the devil, I think, next week. It will be fun. And then we're going to have a lot of fun on Harvest Sunday, because we'll start with prayer and then we're going to end up with activities and a fall feast. And we're going to organize a really good potluck for that Sunday, and it'll be a good day. And you can bring family and children, and so it should be fun. So let us come together now for our virtual circle. And I might notice, Travis, we grew, didn't we? We always do. If you sit up front, you might not know, but so stretch. Hey, that look, you know. All right. Let us say together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.